and welcome to another edition of GOAZCATS.com Arizona Football Preview Show. I'm Troy Hutchison, joined alongside Matt Moreno, and Joe Tafoya is back out of the woods. Any elk, Joe? Any elk?
It turned into I was off elk hunting that last week, so I didn't actually get a chance to watch the game live. Watched a lot of it, and maybe I'm bad luck when I watch the game. I don't know.
I know we were not going to bring you back this week. We thought about it.
I'll watch the game with blinders just every once in a while, but no elk. It turned into a survival experience. I was up in the mountains and it started snowing, so we had to find a way to bail out. Sometimes you just got to know when to fold them.
Mm-hmm. Well, last week for Arizona, it seemed like the team played in like 2 feet of snow, but Arizona walks away.
And it was a survival experience. I was about to say, Joe led right into it.
Yeah, apropos. There you go.
It was, and Arizona snaps its 20-game losing streak with a 10-3, we'll call it gritty victory over Cal. Both teams pretty depleted on both sides of the ball. Cal with COVID issues, with their whole entire left side of their offensive line gone, their starting quarterback gone, 20 players not there, some coaches not there. Arizona, they were dropping like flies, from Will Plummer to the offensive line to Jamari Joyner. I mean, you saw Michael Wiley take snaps at quarterback, or Wildcat formation. It wasn't a pretty game, but Arizona found a way to get it done. I mean, Matt, have you ever seen anything like that, covering a game where people are just dropping like flies?
No, it was crazy. And then we were in the press box, and what happened was it turned into an ugly game. I mean, we were in the press box in the first half. Halftime, it was 0-0. I said, this might be the ugliest football game I've ever seen. I mean, it was just brutal. Cal couldn't do anything. I mean, they were really struggling. I think they had under 30 yards or something like that at halftime, if I'm remembering correctly, maybe a little bit more than that. But total offense was not, they were not moving the ball at all. Arizona definitely deserves some of the credit for that. The defense played really, really well, I thought. Kind of looked like what I think everyone expected them to look like under Don Brown. But you always came back to, well, they're playing a depleted team, a team that just has, nobody. They're missing their starting quarterback. Their backup really didn't have any kind of success. Like you mentioned, they're missing the left side of their offensive line. And then Arizona, somebody I think Joe asked about Luke Ashworth. What's going to happen with Luke Ashworth? Luke Ashworth came in the game, last week. Poor guy, 1 career pass, 1 career interception. And Will Plummer at that point showed how much they needed him out there, went back to the locker room. I don't think I've ever seen anybody go to the locker room 3 different times. It felt like not with the same injury. I know they're being kind of quiet about everything, but the big one was the hand injury, throwing hand, got it all cut up, had to get stitches during the game, came back out. But yeah, I mean, I was kind of half joking about the medical tent. They had 1 offensive lineman in there, and then they had another offensive lineman get hurt. Jordan Morgan was in there. Then Matthew Stefanski, who came in to replace, they had to move guys around. Matthew Stefanski came in the game. A couple plays later, he gets hurt. Jordan Morgan's still in the medical tent. I said, I don't think that's big enough. Like, you can't fit 2 linemen in the medical tent. And sure enough, Jordan Morgan came waddling out because they had to get Matthew Stefanski in there. So it was just one of those crazy games where it was just everybody was going down, and somehow, some way, Arizona did what it needed to do to pull out a win in those final minutes.
Yeah, and that's just it. They won after 20 losses in 2 years. They won the game. I like a tough, gritty game as a defensive player. Those are the games that you truly appreciate, having a good defense. And this year, Arizona's got a good defense. But it really did feel like the stars had to align perfectly for all of this to take place. Like I said, I didn't watch the game, but I did a lot of research watched a lot of stories about it. I watched some of the recaps, and it kind of felt like towards the end of the game, Arizona was looking for a way to lose. But when you're trying to overcome that final obstacle and you're trying to overcome something huge, you need more than talent. You need to stay disciplined. You got to stay prepared, positive, and persistent. And that's exactly what they did. And they turned in their first win in 2 years, and they've overcome a huge black mark on the program's history, ending this 20-game losing streak. Don Brown, he did a fantastic job. The Bears put up 122 yards of total offense. I mean, when does that ever happen? That's such a rare thing. 1 third down conversion. Mm-hmm. And the defense really gave them a chance to win at the end of the game. And, there were a couple of milestones, actually. For the first time since '96, which was my first year as a freshman, they held their opponent to under 100 yards, 100 passing yards 3 times in one season. Great job, Don Brown. Cal scored 3 points, the fewest since 2013, and also the fewest Arizona's allowed in a conference opponent since 2000, back when I played. So congratulations on the win. I mean, it's a big, big moment for the school and Jed Fish's career to officially launch. Everything feels better when you win, doesn't it, boys?
Mhm. Joe, when you're in those type of defensive games and you see the scores 0-0, 3-0, does that just get you even more fired up as a defensive player? Even though you want to see your offense do well, just knowing it's on you.
Yeah, I mean, as a defensive player, you always believe that the game is on you. You no matter what happens on that offense, you know, you can score on defense, you can stop them from scoring. The game is always on you. You live for those type of games, and the championship mentality starts to come out. I remember we were in a game against Cal, not too different than this one, back when I was playing. They're getting ready to score on a final drive of the game, and we call a huddle, and everybody looks each other in the eyes, and you say, this ain't going to happen. This is not going to happen. We're going to find a way to stop it. And penalties, referees, bad calls, the wind, you know, whatever it is, you find a way to overcome. And so, yeah, congratulations to those guys.
Apparently the rule is, hey, just play Cal. If you need something to go right your way and you're Arizona, just play Cal, because poor Cal cannot break that curse. It's starting to feel like it's a legitimate curse at this point, because they kind of have that mentality of when they come to Arizona or even Arizona State, where they can't get a win, and you get hit with this random circumstance. I believe it's the first time really that a team has been truly this impacted by the COVID protocols and everything that went on. They had to postpone their game this week, where it's just like they get ready for that Arizona game and something happens, just something goes wrong, and they're not going to get a win. And so, yeah, it's just brutal for them. But Arizona needed that win, and now they can kind of, it feels like everything kind of you can start moving forward now. I know obviously 8 of these losses will be on Jed Fish and they'll be on his record, but it feels like this is really kind of the start of everything moving forward now with him, just because they got over that initial hump, and now you can really, settle down and settle in and kind of get going with what you want to do and what you want to build if you're Jed Fish and these coaches.
Yeah, and then Arizona, I mean, Joe, you mentioned it. They were fighting here we go again moments. Coach Fish mentioned that throughout the whole entire press conferences leading up to the game, especially after the Washington game. And Arizona had one of those moments. They have Cal on the 1 yard line, 2nd and 11, excuse me. Cal throws an incompleted pass. You look at it, hey, they have a 3rd and 11 opportunity on the inch yard line. Maybe they're going to get a safety. They win the game 5-3. And all of a sudden, there's a penalty for bumping an official. Let's be honest.
Followed by
a
another
horrible
penalty.
call.
What was that?
Followed by another penalty of Don Brown just going ballistic on the call, because they called it on Don Brown and he wasn't even near the play. So 30 yards in penalties on one play, and it's 1st and 10. But Arizona finds a way to come up with a stop, negates the penalty by, I think, negative yardage, 8 yards back, gets the punt, sets up the scoring drive. But that was that moment that Jed Fish was talking about that they couldn't overcome, and they finally did.
Sometimes it takes those moments where you're on the precipice of falling one way or the other to really change. It was a few episodes back when I talked about culture and winning versus losing cultures, but the difference is so minute. You oftentimes you'll look at a team and the talent on the roster and you'll say, how come these guys can't win? Why is it that Arizona cannot figure out how to win this game? They have a good defense. They have a solid running game. Why can't they win this game? Well, when you find a way to win and you overcome, it builds that confidence. And you can even with a small win like this, you feel like you're on the other side of the hill. and you can really start building culture around something like this. Now, this is a tough game coming up, and it's unfortunate that we're facing this particular opponent after this win, because you'd really like to see them put back-to-back wins together.
Mhm. And I think we're going to call the curse the Nick Foles double pass curse, because Cal hasn't won since Nick Foles had that double pass during the 2009 football season. But Joe, I mean, we're going to start a new segment here because Arizona finally gets a victory. Who is your helmet sticker of the week for Arizona?
Helmet sticker of the week. I mean, I think it goes without saying that Keon Bars had the game of his life against Cal. He finished the game with 2.5 sacks. He had a penalty where he gave a guy one where he shouldn't, but I've done that.
You never did anything like that, right, Joe? Joe, you never did anything like that?
I have. I got eliminated from the game, the second half of Oregon State and the first half of Arizona State for punching a guy where the sun don't shine. But as a defensive player, defensive lineman, when you're down in the trenches and a lot of stuff happens down there, sometimes emotions get the best of you. And I think that's what happened on that particular penalty. But he was having a career game at that point. And he had he's leading the team right now with 5 sacks and 7 tackles for loss. So Keon Bars, you, my friend, get the helmet sticker this week.
The first one.
So now we're going to go to the phone lines. And Matt, I believe we have AXA Advisor with another phone call for Joe and us.
He's my favorite guy. Yeah. AXA, we need you to come on the show, my friend. Come out here. We'll blur out your face if you want anonymity, but we need you on the show.
I don't want him on the show because he's going to take my job. Let's be honest. I mean, he's going to come in here and be like, woo you guys, and be like, we don't need Matt anymore.
This guy knows some stuff.
He'll be the new co-host. But here's his question. Actually, it's multiple questions. And of course, they're all really good because naturally. But here you go.
Hey, man. AXA here. Hey, a few questions. First one for Joe. When Coach Fish came in, he emphasized being more physical. I'm wondering how you, Joe, specifically, and also Troy and Matt, would rate the team in that aspect. I think we've been a little bit more physical on both lines, but I would like to see them being even more physical. Second question. Coach Brown talked about the linebackers keying in on the running back's footwork off the snap. As an interior lineman, Joe, what were some of your keys and what was important to you from that aspect? And finally, how did Coach Show Me Circle Drill get you ready to play physically in a game? And would you like to see it return? I know I would. Thanks a lot, guys.
See, that's why I love this guy. I mean, he puts together these multi-part questions, and you see the smile on my face when he starts talking about being physical. I mean, I've got my old helmet here, and here's what we're going to do. In order for me to answer some of these questions, I got to get my helmet on. No, AXA, how I rate the team right now, physicality-wise, is above average, okay? And that's good. Could we be better? Could we be more physical? You're talking to a defensive player here. We can always be more physical. You see these marks on my helmet right here? Each one of those are earned. Physicality. Those come from face masks. They come from jersey material. You wear those things with pride. In Arizona, when you start getting these kind of things on your helmet like that, don't clean them off. Let's keep wearing those babies, because you know what? You can always be more physical. You can always have a team that's more physical. When I'm down on the defensive line and I'm looking at my keys, I've got several keys that I'm looking to read, all right? As an outside defensive line player, my first key is the offensive lineman that I'm facing, usually the tackle. I'm looking at stance. I'm looking at where his weight is positioned, whether it's over his heels or over his toes. From that key, my secondary key is in the backfield. I'm looking at formation sets. If I see that they're in an I formation with a power side, then you go back to your film study and you're thinking about, what type of plays are they running out of these formation sets, and you give yourself the best chance to win. Last and final key is tip of the football. As soon as that thing moves, boom, you shoot out of your stance and you get after it. Now, I'm the type of guy that if I am out there and there's a hand on the ground, I'm going to step on it too. So those are the type of things. Those are the type of keys that I read. That's the type of player that I was. You can always be a little more tough. What was the final question? I got all fired up asking in those first two.
Dick told me circle drill.
Dick told me circle drill. Let me tell you what, boys. As a freshman, when I came in, I had never experienced anything like that. Circle drill. They put me against a kid named Aaron Kopolowski, who's a big offensive lineman out of Southern California. Had never seen it before. Didn't know what to expect. And you get in there, and that's how you make a men out of boys right there. Now, with all of the concussion protocol and the study they're doing on CTE, I don't know if it's coming back. Would it be cool? I love it. It would be cool to do that. We had a drill called the Oklahoma drill where two guys lay on the ground and you just get up and slam heads. We had another one called the machine gun drill where one guy would stand behind a line of maybe 20 and they'd all just fire off on him. I'm afraid to tell you that I feel like those days have come and gone, but hey, you never know, man.
But the
I'd
marks
love to see it come
the
back.
marks remain there, though. That's history right there. Do you know who that mark is from, Joe? Do you know what
This one here?
Yeah. Do you know who you hit there?
I can't remember anything.
I was going to say, do you remember?
It's probably from practice. That's where some of the hardest hits came from, was in practice. I'm proud of every one of those, though, man. And I'll tell you what, when we're out on the field and we're looking for players, we're looking for guys to be physical, look along that defensive line, look along the linebackers. Anthony Pandy, it's senior day coming up this week, so look for him to have a good game. I'm excited about, this next game to see what happens and how they react to having a little bit of success.
Well, you get those marks on Joe's helmet. You get that thing that he gets to wear on his finger too. One leads to the other, I think.
You see that? That's a NFC championship ring from 2005. First time that Arizona ever had a 12-1 record. I was on that team. First time that the Seattle Seahawks ever went to the Super Bowl. I was on that team. First time the Arizona Cardinals ever went to the Super Bowl. I was on that team. So you're talking to a guy who knows a little bit about culture. And it all starts with the nucleus of guys who really believe in it. And when you start a mantra like it's personal with Jed Fish, you can build a great program around something like that. So let's get excited about it, man. Man, you guys got me all fired up now. I was wearing my helmet.
I know.
It barely fits anymore because I got a big meathead.
I was a little bit afraid of Joe. I was like gonna have to back up a little bit. Don't want to take a shot. Too many guys getting injured around Tucson lately. Can't risk it.
Yeah, that's a lot of injuries.
Yeah, no, it was not good for Arizona last week with the injury bug. But this week, Arizona has Utah on its schedule. Utah's coming off of a huge win over Stanford, absolutely thumping the Cardinal 52-7 on the road. Impressive win for Utah. Arizona versus Utah, all-time. Utah leads the series 24-19-2. Arizona hasn't won a game against Utah since the 2015 upset over a top 10 Utah team in Tucson. That was the game where Gerard Randall had to come in and quarterback for the Wildcats, and Nate Phillips got the game-winning touchdown in overtime against number 6, I believe, Utah at that time. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. But I remember that game was cold. That was one of the coldest games I've ever been to here in Tucson. Utah has dominated the series, winning 3 of the last 4 in complete blowout fashion, 4 straight overall for Utah. But now we come to the segment of the show where we're going to invite in Alex Markham from UteNation. Alex, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate you coming out.
Anytime, Troy. Thanks for having me, man.
So, Alex, for Arizona fans that aren't familiar with Utah, haven't watched a lot of Utah football, we know that, defensive-minded team. But talk about Utah's offense, because that's been shining, and it really shined against Stanford in their last game.
Yeah, you're right. Like, everybody knows Utah is a tough, hard-nosed defensive team, and they've had their moments on that this year, right? Like, they've they're young, you know, and so the offense has really been opportunistic where they've really been able to capitalize and carry them on things. Now, the crazy thing to it is, though, is, you know, I'm never going to be the woulda, coulda, shoulda type. You know, something probably wouldn't have gone right within the first 3 games regardless. But, you know, Utah started the season off with Charlie Brewer. A lot of people are aware of that. But anyways, I mean, obviously Charlie Brewer going into the season was the all-time active leader in passing yards, right? From when he was at Baylor. And he beat out Cam Rising narrowly. And the only thing to put him over the top was his experience. Well, what Whittingham, the coaches, failed to realize at the time is that there's a lot to be said about continuity and leadership, and a guy that's been through the battles with the guys, right? You know, a guy that really can just like motivate them and so on and so forth. And that's somebody like Cam Rising, you know? And so Utah started off really, really rough. The offensive line really took a while to get going. Brewer is that type where he even struggled at Baylor last year, and it was because he had a bad offensive line. Okay. Goes into this year. Utah's offensive line is struggling. They're injured. Couldn't do much with it, you know? So as soon as Cam Rising got inserted into that San Diego State game, you could just sense like, you know, okay, Brewer's done. This is Cam's team. Everybody was energized and rallying around him. He was able to mask the offensive line's weaknesses because of his mobility and just his decision-making too. Right. You know, it was a lot. There was a lot that went into it. And ever since then, I mean, he's just been that dude with the it factor that everybody thrives off of. I mean, even the defense feeds off the guy, but he's really kind of breathed new life into this offense. You know, the offensive line is finally starting to do better, which is scary because, I mean, last week, Utah having 300-yard rushers against Stanford. When that happened, the insane thing to it was, I mean, the running backs were patient and making smart cuts and so on and so forth, making guys miss tackles. But the majority of the time, I would say probably 80% of their rushes, they weren't getting touched until 5 to 7 yards past the line of scrimmage, because that's how good the offensive line was blocking. It was scary how well that was working. But even at that, you know, I know it's kind of a long answer for you, but yeah, I mean, you know, Utah hasn't really been known as a passing team either. The last few years, it's just been, you know, their bread and butter has been the run. And you know, the big thing is, I mean, I would say, especially now with Tavion Thomas, he's 6'2". They try to say he's 220, right? He's 6'2", 230. The dude's a brick, and fast as can be too. Now that they've got the run game going with him that way, it's kind of evolved back into your more typical Utah style offense, but Cam Rising will still make you pay and hit those big plays and keep everybody honest. So it's been fun and refreshing to watch this year.
Is there anything about this team that surprised you that maybe you weren't anticipating at the beginning of the year, and now it's like, oh, this is different than what I was anticipating?
Or
is there not anything that's surprising with Utah because they are so consistent in what they do?
Yeah, I mean, they're consistent, right? I mean, I would, to most people and the casual observers, they would say the offense, like we just talked about, right? With me in the off season and everything, you know, so the reason Utah brought Brewer in was because of Cam's injury that he got 12 plays into the first game against USC last year, right? They didn't expect him to be 100% going into the season. He was. And his arm strength was better than last year, and his accuracy was good in the workouts that they were doing and all that stuff. And so I was sitting back thinking, like, you know, okay, well, you got to go with the future of the program. You got to go with this kid that everybody says has the it factor. You know, I've been a Rising fan for a long time, just knowing what the program thinks of him, right? And so, you know, when they went with Brewer, it was kind of a surprise just to see how bad the offense actually was, right? You know, and then the big surprise for everybody is seeing obviously Cam come in and light it up compared to this dude that's, you know, that was the active, you know, again, passing leader in college football. You know, that was quite a shock for a lot of people. But, you know, again, it wasn't a shock for me and some of the others close to the program, especially the guys within the program, because everybody had the utmost confidence in the guy. Other than that, some of the surprises, a negative, to be flat out honest, is Utah's defensive line. I mean, that's been their bread and butter on defense for a long time, right? It all starts with that. And they've struggled at times this year. They lost Vianney Mawala to a nasty hip injury for the season. So they've been playing a lot of young guys. And it's hit and miss. There's some games that those guys are just stone cold, just you know, just unstoppable. And there's other games where, you know, there's weaknesses. There's, you know, they're finding easy run lanes, you know, to go at the guys and everything. Additionally, the defensive ends, for instance, they you know, the first few games of the season, like when Utah lost BYU, a lot of that had to do with, I mean, granted, the offense was struggling at the time, but defensively, they were really vulnerable on the edges with their edge containment, you know, and those are things that you just don't usually see with the Utah defense. But again, it's a lot of it goes back to they're just young.
Today during Jed Fish's press conference, we saw him mention Utah as the role model program for Arizona moving forward in the future for the Wildcat program. What makes Utah and Ty Winningham so consistent? Why have they been the consistent model for the Pac-12 over the last 6 years?
You know, honestly, it all stems back to Kyle. You know, his process and how he gets guys to believe and buy in. You know, the culture that he builds. It's you constantly hear the word family with Utah, right? And a lot of teams talk about that. But I think one of the big things with that is Kyle's really helped instill that over the years. But at the same time, too, that built-in advantage that Utah has with the LDS Church, with the Polynesian pipeline, right? Those guys really kind of help instill that culture. And then, you know, just the hard work and you know, the work ethic that Whittingham drills into place, you know, and it's really kind of that take one game at a time approach and mentality, which going back to the start of the year, they didn't have. I'll be honest, Utah in fall camp, they didn't seem like your typical Utah team, right? They came across a little bit more arrogant. They were talking about the playoffs. They were talking about the Rose Bowl. They were talking as if they had already won things, you know? And that early part of the season really kind of humbled them and kind of brought them back to, like, you know, okay, we've kind of been something that we're not. Let's get back to that. Let's get back to that mindset. You know, and really it's stability with when you have a coach that's been there as long as Kyle, you know, you're going to be better off as a program, you know? And so, I mean, keep in mind, I mean, Utah's still been like a lot more consistent than the majority of the teams in the conference. Right. But I mean, there's been seasons where you could sit back and like argue like, oh, Kyle's on the hot seat. Kyle's this, Kyle's that. We got to look at this, you know, compared to like how a lot of the other teams in the conference approach that. But there's a sense of loyalty within the athletic department and the program that really just kind of shines through. And, you know, again, just allows the process to play out, and the consistency just shows, you know, and also it just kind of goes, the additional thing that it goes back to too is, you know, Utah, they recruit well, but at the same time too, I mean, Utah finds a lot of diamonds in the rough. Right. And so Utah's skill development is the one thing that I would say sets it apart from everybody else in the entire Pac-12. It sets them apart from a lot of schools in the entire country, to be honest. Just because like when you look at the average star ratings that they get over the years, right, and where they end up in the recruit rankings, and then you see the amount of guys. Oh gosh, I want to say 2019, and now I might be wrong on this because I'm just spitballing, but I want to say they had right around 11 guys drafted. So I mean that's the one key thing right there, is just being somebody that just making sure that you're not somebody that making sure that you're not trying to be something that you're not, right? Arizona's not going to be in Oregon when it comes to football, and so that was one of that compliment that he paid to Whittingham in the program today is one of the highest compliments you can give. And honestly, it's extremely accurate. So if he takes that approach and Arizona has that patience, they're gonna see the program get better. They're gonna see it pay off.
So for Arizona last week, it felt like they needed everything to go right to get a win. Cal had so many players out, kind of made it an ugly game. To me, it feels like if they want to win this game, if they have any chance at winning this game, they might have to make it kind of an ugly game. I don't think they're going to, win a shootout with Utah. They just don't have the weapons. The defense has kind of led them the entire way and is playing really well at this point. If Arizona wants to win, knowing what you know about Utah, how would they go about trying to attack this team and trying to pull out this what would be a really big upset win?
Oh, I'll be honest
tough shoes,
with you.
tough task. I know. This is what Jeff Fish has on his table this week.
That's one of the most difficult questions I've been asked all year, because I mean, look, Arizona, props to them for getting the weight off their shoulders and winning their first game in 2 years. And when I say that, I'm not saying that as a slam, right? They've gone through some hard times in the last 2 years. It's been a struggle, but I do look at it and kind of how you're saying the stuff with Cal, where it still took them beating a Cal team that is mediocre at best, right? With them down all those guys. The easiest way to say this is Utah, two things that have really bit Utah in their losses. Okay. Turnovers. Tavion Thomas he really had the turnover bug early in the year. Okay. And he's fixed it. And it was funny because I was joking around telling everybody, I'm like, and you guys have probably seen the movie, right? But I was like, man, the coaches just need to make him do that Wesley Snipes thing from the program, right? Carry the damn football around the campus. And anytime anybody from the program sees him, tackle him or try to knock the ball out. Well, they made him carry the ball around campus. They ended up doing that, right? And then obviously focusing on it during the bye week, and you can just see how he's running it different and a lot more aware than he was earlier in the year. Will the fumble bug arise again? It can, So I mean that's one thing right there. Utah is known for their kicking game. Not in 2021. Oh man, it's the punting got so bad that they're onto their second string punter now. But before they even went to their second string punter, they had Cam Rising doing some prized pooch punts, and he was actually doing better than the punter that started off the season. Right, he pinned UCLA twice within the 10-yard line. And one of them led to a safety the next play, so so the punting lost, the punting killed them against Oregon State. Okay. The field goal kicking is awful. Jaden Redding is back to kicking field goals for him again. The longest he's ever made is 47 yards. He's been extremely inconsistent. It's gotten into his head. He's missed some crucial kicks in Utah's losses, so those things right there, the kicking game, and if Utah starts fumbling the football, that's where Arizona has a chance.
Before we go, anything you want to plug? Obviously, UteNation.com, but anything else, your Twitter, YouTube, anything else you guys got going on that you want to plug? You want people to check out?
Oh man, I was doing podcasts, and then I actually had my podcast equipment stolen, believe it or not. So I had to put that on the shelf. So I can't plug the podcast, man. But But yeah, everybody, they can follow me on Twitter, A Markham Rivals. That's MARKHAM. So A Markham Rivals. I promise to be nice. I like friendly football banner. And hey, look, when when I'm saying some of the things that I'm saying on how I expect the game to go, Arizona's got a good coach. He's got the right mindset in place. One of the comparisons I like to look at with how he went with that approach with bringing back former players and getting them so involved in the program is, and Utah fans won't like this, but BYU with Kalani Sitake. Okay. It took him a few years to build that. He's got the culture going. I mean, you've obviously seen what they've been able to do this year. Beat Utah for the first time in 10 meetings, but you fans are pretty mad about that and feel like the outcome would be different now, right? But every streak's got to end sometime soon. I mean, 10 years is a lot, but again, it's the right thought process in place. You got a great coach in place. Just give them patience. It's not gonna happen next year. It probably won't happen the year after that. You just got to write it out, have that foundation get in place, and Arizona's going to be a lot better off.
So again, thanks to Alex for joining us from UteNation. Really appreciate him hopping on. We're coming to that part of the show, Joe, where look at 3 guys on Arizona's roster that might have a huge impact on this game. So take it away. Who are the 3 key players to watch for Arizona?
Well, my sticker player last week is Keon Bars. We already talked about him. Keep an eye on him. Trayvon Mason, another interior lineman. I feel like when they're healthy, these 2 guys play very consistently. And I mentioned also that it's senior night and senior linebacker Anthony Pandy. In order for us to have a chance in this game, our defense has to be significant. They've got one of the most fierce running trios in all of the Pac-12. And that's saying something because we've got some good running backs in this league. But those are my 3 guys to keep an eye on. Defense.
There you go. Theme of the show. I'm going to start out with Dorian Singer, a freshman receiver, has kind of got thrown into the limelight a little bit. Arizona's been kind of banged up at receiver, and it was kind of kept quiet, it felt like, where you just said, oh, that guy's not playing. And all of a sudden you see a true freshman making plays on the field, and kind of started in that USC game and started to pick up a little bit more. Did pretty well in this game against Cal, and it feels like he's kind of that guy that's on the cusp of having a really strong breakout season and breakout performance. And so he had 46 yards and 5 catches against Cal, and to me he just seems like someone who's kind of on the verge of really breaking out. And maybe this isn't the team to do it against, but I think it feels like he has a strong connection with Will Plummer, and there's some kind of there's some trust there, I think, between those 2 guys. And so he's someone that I'm looking at. I'm going to go with Old Faithful Jalen Harris. He had a really strong game. He's been putting things together kind of in a really strong way lately. Finally, maybe he's watching our show and he's like, I got to do it for Matt. Matt picks me every week.
Yeah, every week, man. do it for Matt. Make him look good.
Yeah. I did pick Stanley Berryhill last week. You weren't here, Joe. I said, I know I got to pick Joe's. I said that Jalen Harris is my Stanley Berryhill. But no, I think he's kind of another guy who's really started to emerge. He had a really strong game against Cal. The one thing that left me really impressed was we were on the field for that last defensive drive when Arizona sealed the win. Jalen Harris was still playing like it was the first play. I mean, that whole defensive line, that whole defensive group really stepped up on that last drive. And Don Brown, when he was talking earlier in the week, he said he went into that going like, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Haven't really been in a position like that where you're, 2 minutes left in the game and you have to come up with a stop. And he said it was uneventful. It was kind of anticlimactic, and he likes it that way. He likes, when the defense goes out there and nothing happens, and they get off the field and that's it. And so Jalen Harris was a big part of that. Had that hurry on the last play, kind of pushed the quarterback out of the pocket, forced an errant throw. So he's someone that I'm going to continue to go with. And then Jamari Joyner. I want to see him I think we were talking to Alex. You didn't get to hear this part, Joe, but he said that, their edge containment hasn't been great. And that was kind of one of his ways. If Arizona has a chance at winning this game, attack those guys on the edge. And so you have a quarterback that can do some things with his feet and get out on the edge and really burn some guys with his speed and his size. We'll see how many snaps he gets. He's a little bit banged up, or at least was last week, played a little bit, but didn't look great, didn't look 100%, probably a little bit closer this week. I think they can mix it up. It feels like when he's on the field in really any capacity, they have a chance to kind of break one away or do something big. And so I'm looking at him and seeing if he can come back and bounce back with a healthy game and a strong performance.
Well, you guys took like 3 of my guys, so I'm going to have to get pretty creative here. But I'm going to go with who I feel like was the co-MVP last week. I think Kyle Osendorp is going to be a huge part for Arizona's success this week coming up. Again, I believe Arizona's a time of possession team that needs to play the battle of field position right now. And with Utah having special team issues, Arizona could capitalize on some opportunities with the ability of Kyle Osendorp. So I'm going to pick him. He's been great all season for Arizona, maybe on the cusp of an all-conference performer for the Wildcats, maybe the only one on the roster, but he's been amazing. Number 2, a little bit of a curveball. We saw last week Brendan Carroll really step up in terms of moving offensive linemen in and out, rotating guys, putting them in good position, and, just managing with what he had. And Arizona was able to run the ball. You're going to get a little bit healthier. You need to have another performance from Brendan Carroll in terms of getting guys in the right position and letting them understand what they need to do. It was a terrific coaching job by him last week. I think Arizona needs a repeat performance of that from Brendan Carroll. And then lastly, Arizona's defensive line. I mean, we talked about Jalen Harris, Mo Diallo, Keon Bars, Traven Mason. Got it right that time. And, that defensive line has been really good the last 3 games for Arizona. The first, I believe, 6 games or so, they had 8 sacks. The last 3, they've had 10. So they're getting after the quarterback. They're stopping the run. Only gave up, I believe, 28 yards rushing to Cal. I think that's going to be my unit to watch for Arizona is on that defensive front.
Look at Troy with the analysis.
Man, no kidding. And way to switch it up. I know we took all your guys and you had to do that on the fly.
Yeah, on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, you got to make it do with what you have. So keys to the game for Arizona. Personally, for me, I've already said it, time of possession. Arizona, we've seen them have success against teams like Oregon, USC, when they're slowing down the game, eating clock and managing that game. I know Oregon finally blew them out at the end, but they were in that game all the way to the 4th quarter before the picks and turnovers start arising. Stop the run. Utah, heavy run team. I know they have a quarterback now and Riser, but they are still a run-based offense. They like to run the ball, run it right down your throat. Arizona needs to shut down the run and then make it 3rd and manageable. Don't put yourself in 3rd and long situations. If you could get 3rd and 6 and in, Arizona has a good chance of converting 3rd downs. I don't remember the percentages last week on their 3rd down conversion, but they converted at a higher rate that they had all season long. That was the best 3rd down offense Arizona's had all season. So if Arizona wants that opportunity to upset Utah, make it 3rd and manageable.
And they held Cal to just 1 3rd down conversion too. But the trio I was talking about earlier is Tavian Thompson. I mean, he accounted for 4 of Utah's 7 touchdowns. They absolutely dismantled Stanford 52-7. And that's an embarrassing loss for Stanford's program. Micah Bernard and TJ Pledger, they're an incredible trio. I agree with you, Troy. If we want to have some success, we need to be able to stop the run, and turnovers are absolutely key.
Yeah, that was going to be mine, was just turnovers. You have to win the turnover battle. You can't allow them to turn you over and force you into turnovers. And you have to find a way to create turnovers yourself as a defense. I think you have to. This is not one of those games where you can play straight up with them. You have to have something go your way. And you might even need a defensive score in this game to kind of remain in it and have a chance, because I think it's going to be a difficult game for the offense to try and score points. And I just think you're going to need a lot of help from the defense. You're going to need the defense to turn in the type of performance it did last week, where, it gave up 3 points and really played probably as close to perfect as it can play. I mean, at this point, where that there wasn't a bad element about that game for the defense. They cut down on the explosive plays. They were in the backfield, creating havoc, disrupting the backfield. They were doing all the things they want to do, and you have to build on that and keep that going against a very difficult opponent. So I think there's going to be a lot on the defense. You have to create some turnovers. Can't have turnovers yourself. And then kind of on a similar note, I think if you're Jed Fish, he always has those wheels turning in his head. All these offensive coaches always do. They always want to think of whatever's next. Get a little bit creative with it. I think this is going to be one of those games where you have to get a little bit creative. Again, I don't think you can play this team straight up and say we're going to go win. I think you have to get a little bit creative. We know he likes thinking of different kinds of plays and all these having different people throw passes. We have Michael Wiley, running the Wildcat. We have all these different things going on. I think you have to pull some of those plays out and see what you can do in this game because it's going to be a difficult challenge for Arizona.
All right, guys, it occurs to me that our preview show is really resonating with the fans. And, for me, the one thing that I really loved about Tucson when I was there was the fans. And so I'd like to say thank you to all of our fans, everyone that's stuck with the team for this long and who has continued to listen to, this preview show and the listeners that are calling in like AXA, and it just makes me swell up with pride that there are people, no matter how far the team falls, they're still out there cheering for us. And, those are the true blue, hardcore Bear Down fans, and we love you guys. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We love all those people watching and tuning in and receiving comments on YouTube, everywhere. I know everyone kind of hopefully we'll get people anticipating, hey, when's the next show going to come out? When's the next show going to come out? That's what we're hoping for. But I definitely sounds like people are enjoying it and we appreciate doing it and we enjoy doing it. So yeah, we appreciate everybody watching in and tuning in. We need more callers though. I know we love AXA. We love that he calls in, but let's get some different callers because I do. I want to hear more from, other fans and get some input from everybody else because, it's a good time to be jumping on board with this team finally breaking through, getting a win. And again, it feels like, and even Alex said it earlier on the other segment where he said, it's just kind of the ground level and now you can kind of build up from there. So, yeah, we definitely appreciate everyone tuning in.
Thank you for watching. Continue to watch, tell your friends, tell them to call in. But as always, thank you guys. And we'll be there covering the game throughout this week. So make sure to follow us on Twitter and we'll give you live updates throughout the day.
Follow Joe too. Make sure you guys follow Joe.
Yeah, follow Joe too.
Follow Joe. Come on. Every once in a while, I say something cool and people retweet it.
There you go. So as always, we'll see you next time.